Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kanti Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kanti Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Kanti Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam for another delightful and beautiful satsang in the presence of the Divine Mother, Sri Rajarajeshwari, the Queen of all three worlds, the Creator, Sustainer, and the Absorber of this universe. Let us begin the satsang as always with a reverential prayer to Lord Ganesha, who has this tremendous energy to remove all obstacles, clear all distractions from our path, and help in opening doors of the higher mind so we can receive, tune into, and receive the blessings of the divine energies of the universe. May we invoke Ganesha from our own Mooladhara so he clears the passages and our consciousness begins to move upwards. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Om गणपतये नमः। ॐ 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 गणपतये नमः। पशुपतितनया पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश गणेश। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश। पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश गणेश। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश। ॐ गणपतये नमः। 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 पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश गणेश। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश। हे शिवनंदन बालगजानन। हे शिवनंदन बालगजानन। विद्या बुद्धि प्रदाता। हे शिवनंदन बालगजानन। हे शिवनंदन बालगजानन। विद्या बुद्धि प्रदाता। विद्या बुद्धि प्रदाता। मंगलकर हे मंगलकर हे मंगलकर हे मंगलकर हे। सुंदर पाहि गणेश गणेश। सुंदर पाहि गणेश। पशुपतितनया बालगजानन। तुम हो विघ्न विनाश Ganesha, tum ho vighna vinasha. He Shivanandana Bala Gajanana, He Shivanandana Bala Gajanana, Vidya Buddhi Pradata, Vidya Buddhi Pradata, Mangala Kara He, Mangala Kara He, Mangala Kara He, Mangala Kara He, Sundar Sai Ganesha, Sundar Pahi Ganesha, Ganesha, Sundar Pahi Ganesha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha, 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 Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om. For those of you who have just joined, Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam. We are continuing to study, continuing in our journey rather, into this divine city of Tripura, discovering its secrets as the divine energy of Devi reveals itself to us. Knowing in as much depth as we possibly can at this time and this juncture, so that we are able to open the doors of our minds to greater wisdom, greater learning, and the ability to absorb greater experiences, so that it is no longer a matter of faith or belief, but it is a matter of experience, your personal experience. So let us go to the slides. All these weeks, we were learning the first avarana. Today we will encroach the second avarana. Where is the second avarana? I'm going to use these terms avarana rather than sheath and doors and chakras, because those are the terms that we get used to, and they are the best explained in Sanskrit, best said in Sanskrit, best pronounced in Sanskrit. So avarana. The first avarana, as we saw, had 3 walls, and we studied all of them in as much detail as we possibly could at that particular state. And now Devi opens the doors and welcomes us to the second avarana. How does the second avarana look like? Here is how the second avarana looks. There is a beautiful circle. The second avarana is a circle rather than a square. So a circle signifies energy. Energy travels in circular motions, and it proceeds up in circular spiral pathways in our consciousness as we experience the Sri Chakra. Even though the first avarana was a square, we went round it. So the idea of circling, pradakshina, that we do in temples, going around, is to create that circular energy. When you embrace someone, it is a circular energy. So love, embrace, containing, closeness, proximity are all explained best when there are no sharp edges. So circle is a very beautiful way to begin to express the never-ending pattern of energy, where there is no beginning and no end. That is why this eventually all of this becomes a dot, right? Where does a dot begin? Where does it end? It is always a dot. It's the beginning of everything and the end of everything. Everything emerges from the dot, merges into the bindu or the dot. So this is a circle. Let us take a closer look. This circle, if you see, has a particular kind of design on it. They are known as petals. So this particular circle, the first circle that you come across after you cross and you enter this divine Tripura, you have 16 petals. Each of them, of course, signifying something or the other. Very beautifully placed, symmetrically placed in the Sri Chakra. So you see, these are the 16 petals. Each of these petals mean something. What are they called in Sanskrit? They are called Shodasha. Shodasha, Sho stands for Shat. Shat is 6. Dasha is 10. 10 and 6 becomes, instead of saying Shat Dasha, in Sanskrit when you join two words, it sounds different. So it becomes Sho Dasa. Shodasha. Shodasha Dala. Dala means petals. These are petals. Every thought in our mind is a petal. Every feeling is a petal. Every vibration that is created by a thought, by a word, and eventually, of course, by a deed, they're all petals. Like a flower opening up. A flower is beautiful because it is a collection of petals around it. Right? They may be very tiny petals, they may be bigger petals like in a rose, or very big petals like in a lotus, but nevertheless a flower is complete when all its petals bloom. And the petals, individual petals, when they are joined together, they create a pattern, a flower, and that's what brings beauty. Similarly, it is the combination of these petals that release a particular energy in the deep chitta, if you will, in our own, for our understanding, let's call it unconscious, subconscious mind, deep inside. It begins to create a different wave. We talked about core beliefs, right, in the previous Avarna. How do we tap into those core beliefs? It's not easy, because if we knew them, then they become conscious. And if it's conscious, then it's no longer effective on us. It's the thinking mind. It's the unconscious, deeply embedded, so deep that we don't even know what it is. And therefore, in order to go there, we approach and undertake this whole sadhana, so unknown to us, at in the sense of, at a conscious level, we are not aware of it. At a deep unconscious level, changes begin to happen. Different vibrations, different frequencies begin to form, different neurons in the brain begin to form. And unknown to us, over the weeks and over the months and over the years of sadhana, we transform ourselves. It is an unconscious transformation. Divinity comes stealthily. That is the symbolism of Krishna stealing butter. He comes stealthily into your home and steals your butter. What does that mean? Divinity doesn't come announced. It's not going to say, okay, Thursday, it's a good day, I'm going to come to your house and knock at your door. If it was, it would have been easy, right? We could have all got together, seen the Hindu almanac and the calendar and said, all right, this is a perfect time for God to walk us, and open the doors and wait, and he would walk in and everything will be bright and beautiful. It doesn't happen like that. The true progress, the permanent progress, the lasting progress, if you will, happens in a stealth manner. Stealthily, is that a word, stealthily? Happens stealthily. In other words, like Krishna stealing butter. What is the significance of that? He would come into the Gopika's house and quietly steal the butter. In other words, he will enter your heart quietly. Devi enters quietly. There is no Big Bang here. There is nothing to be afraid of here. You don't even know when she enters the house and when she blesses you, in what manner she will bless you. That is the beauty of this whole thing. And therefore, you practice and you just enjoy the practice, because expecting is not going to get you anything. And therefore, you say, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the practice. So all of this is explained in these Sri Chakras. So we are learning them separately, but eventually each avarana on top of each other, as you progress, they all together, all the Devis together harmoniously. It's like a choir. It's like a group singing bhajans. It's like a group singing Nama Sankirtana. There is such layer and harmony in the voices. There is female voice, there is male voice, there is rhythm, there is melody, there is lyrics. All of that come together and lifts your mind, right? It is that same principle that happens in Sri Chakra. So let us understand, what is this 16 all about? Why is there so much importance in 16? I could straight away go into these petals and explain, but I thought there may be young people listening to this satsang. I know some people watch it with family, and there are young kids, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds watching it. I want to explain what is. There are many reasons why these numbers gained significance in Sanatana Dharma. Hinduism as we know it now is partly Sanatana Dharma, but Sanatana Dharma was a much more ancient, much more comprehensive way of life. It was not a religion, it was a way of life. And it was the birth of all the other thought processes that spread out into the world that we have today, we know as religions. Hinduism is one of them. Sanatana Dharma is the ancient, most ancient. So they came up with these numbers for a particular reason and so on. So I'm not going to go into the science part of it, because there's no such thing as science here, and we really don't need science to endorse these kind of things. One of the common ones that you and I probably know already, and we will touch upon that as we go into the Sri Chakra, because we'll come across the 16 again, is the 16 phases of the moon. Because moon is connected with the mind, very intricately connected with our ability to think, the ability to be creative, the ability to have emotions, feelings, and all of that is linked to the presence of the moon. Can this be scientifically proved? I don't know. Maybe someday. But the phases of the moon affect the phases of our mind. Not directly, not consciously, but at a very subtle level, these things happen. And as it goes on over the years and over the decades, we form certain patterns unknown to us. And so the phases of the moon are 15, right? 15 days, and 15 days makes it 30. What is 16 then? There is that phase, a small segment of a phase after the new moon or after the full moon, when it is fully finished its waxing or waning stage. It enters new moon, there is nothing. And then just before the first day, first night of the first phase of the next thing starts, just before that and after this, there is a period. Just like you have twilight time in every day, you have the sun is setting, it's neither dark nor light, it's neither day nor night, it is what we call dusk when the sun is setting. When the sun is rising, it's neither day nor night, what we call it dawn. So there is a sandhya period, a period which we call sandhya, a period where it is called the twilight. So it is the same thing in the phase of the moon, and that phase after the new moon and just before the beginning, that is a very, very auspicious time for intense meditation and sadhana. But we don't follow the Hindu almanac, we don't follow the lunar calendar, we don't even know when it happens. It doesn't have to happen in the nights, it could happen in the day, depending on which part of the world you are and so on. But that part is the 16th phase of the moon. So you have 16 phases of the moon. Sanskrit language, if not the most ancient language, is one of the most ancient language. Which is the oldest language is Tamil. And I'm not saying that because I speak Tamil or my mother tongue is Tamil, it's just what it is. The oldest language, even today, it's proved. I mean, it's there, the world has accepted that finally. That the oldest spoken language today is Tamil. This Tamil, what we speak today, is not anywhere close to what it existed earlier. It is modified over thousands of years, generations, yugas, and so on. And then there is Sanskrit. Whether these emerged simultaneously in both these parts of India, or whether one emerged from the other, these are all things which we can debate forever. We don't know that. But it is safe to consider that Sanskrit and Tamil were the oldest languages known to man. So when these languages were formed, Sanskrit especially has, we won't get into Tamil because that's a whole different subject. Sanskrit, because we study all of this in Sanskrit, Sanskrit has 16 vowels from A to Aha. Again, number 16 comes, again, that nobody sat down with a pen and paper and wrote this language. This language was evolved when the rishis and sages began to tune into the sounds of the universe. This language is sculpted from the vibrations of the universe, from the frequencies of the universe, and therefore the vowels are formed. When the time comes and the context prevails, I'll explain these vowels if it fits into this. But otherwise, we'll probably touch upon it as we learn the Vedic chants in another section. But that's again 16. I'm talking about the number 16 that comes in all these. So the 16 faces of the moon, the 16 vowels. And then in the most ancient practices of Sanatana Dharma, there is to be, they would carve out 16 important rites in one person's life. There are many, many rites. Okay, if you read Manu Shastra, not that I'm an expert in this, I just, out of curiosity, whenever I get time, these days, at least for the last 1 year, I haven't had time to touch a book. But whenever I get time, I read into that. So bear with me when I quote these things. I'm not claiming any expertise or scholarship, and I'm not trying to be humble. And just, it is what it is. So Manusmriti, Dharma Shastra, and all of this, there are a lot of differences between all of this because over thousands of years, these scriptures have either been lost or replaced, and so many things have happened. Nevertheless, the essence of this remains the same. So they come up with 16 samskaras predominantly. Most of them pertain towards childhood and youth. 16 samskaras. The Shodasa Samskara. It's very interesting. So I thought I will just spend on that a little bit, just out of curiosity. For those of you who are curious, know what is the 16 Samskaras. It also brings to light, it's not directly related to the Sri Chakra, but it explains the significance of the number 16. So bear with me here. A little diversion, but I just felt it's very nice to even share how mindful these rishis were when they lived their life, how mindful it was. Every juncture of the life was an important event. And many of that pertains even to today in Indian culture and traditions. And so what are these 16 samskaras? They're called Shodasa Samskaras. I'm not propounding them or telling you should follow. I didn't follow most of them. But it's very interesting, more of an FYI, to know how these 16 matters, that there is some magical number in 16. All right. So the first samskara that is done is when the child is to be conceived, when the couple get together and say, all right, let's plan a baby. So this is the time that's a mindful decision, right? And that mindful decision of planning a baby, having a baby, that is also done mindfully with reverence and as a spiritual journey, because you're aware that you're bringing a soul into this world that is going to find its fulfillment in its purpose through you. There's a temporary attachment and says, this is my child and I'm the father and so on. But the main purpose is that creation plays a role, and that in that play of consciousness, you are chosen as an instrument to bring forth a life into this world. And so it's a very important decision to be taken. That decision is called dhana. Dhana is wealth. Garbha dhana. What is the wealth? Wealth of the womb. So that is what is one of the samskaras that is written down, saying take a mindful decision, be conscious about what it is, bringing forth a child into this world. And then when the child is conceived, the moment it is known that the lady is pregnant and the conception has happened, then there is a celebration that the soul is now found a womb to find its fulfillment, and therefore that's a celebration. It could be a rite, it could be a ritual, but that moment, that time is very mindful. It's called Pun Savana. Savana is more of a celebration, a season, celebration season. So that Pum means is human being, soul. Pum and Sa becomes Pun Savana. So that is another samskara out of the 16 samskaras. Then comes the Simantam. That is after I think it is about 7th or 8th month that they do the baby shower. Like I said, I'm not an expert in these things, but just out of curiosity, I've done some research, and this is some information, because there are so many interpretations to 16. I thought this is something we may not be very aware of, right? Simantam, or baby shower, that is done on the 8th month, is also an important mindful stage that people pause to celebrate, because that is a time, it's like now time for the baby to come out, and the baby has formed all the limbs and everything, and so there is a blessing for the mother to be at that time. And then comes the fourth is Jata Karmana. Jata Karmana or Jata Karma is when the baby is born, the mother introduces the baby to the father. The baby is introduced to the father. Baby doesn't need any introduction to a mother, because she clings to the mother's breasts and feeds of the mother, right? So there is no need to introduce a mother to a baby. But the father needs to be introduced. So the father holds the baby's fingers and holds the baby. That there is, again, these kind of rituals, what is done and how the mantras are chanted differs from culture to culture, from societies to society. Even in India, there are so many now. Hundreds of variations of these things are done. Or it could be as simple as a father holding the baby for the first time, right? But that moment is very precious and is marked as one of the samskaras, and it is called Jata Karma samskara. The baby bonds with the father. Then comes the Namakarana. Of course, this is common across cultures, across traditions. You name the baby. So naming the baby, again, when you should name the baby, 10th or the 11th day or the 12th day or the first month, or is it the first new moon after the child is born or the first full moon? All this, your priests will tell you if you need to know this. Please don't ask me more questions on this. I'm not an expert. But the point here is, it's each of these were sacred moments in everyone's life, the parent's life and the baby's life. It was marked. This was the day you were named. This was the name given to you. The grandfather gave you this name. The paternal grandfather, they got together and made this name for you and gave it to you, and so on. It just happens. It's like that. What you have been called may not be the name you were given. Like my name given to me at the time of my birth was Meenakshi Sundaram, because my grandfather, my father's father, he was always chanting Ram Nam. He had reached a point where he was in constant contemplation with Ram. And I vaguely remember that as a child. And just as my mother's Simandam was performed, he told her, you're going to get a son and his name will be Meenakshi Sundaram. And therefore the name had already been given to me even before this happened. So there was a formal occasion when Meenakshi Sundaram was given to me, and that became Sundar, Sundarayar, and so on. And so the name given to you would be different from the name you're being called, right? But this Namakarana is an important part where the whole family get together and name the baby. Then comes the sixth samskara, Nishkramana. Nishkramana is the baby's first outing. I don't know if you saw this movie, Baby's Day Out. It's not like, it came sometime in the 90s, I think. Anyway, it was a very sweet movie. It's not about the baby going out on its own, but it's the first time. So how this was done traditionally, from what I have read, is the father will show the celestial bodies of the heavens to the baby for the first time. Okay, so it is said that the first time the baby goes out, the father will take him at the time of sunrise and show the sun rising. Not in our cities. Please don't try that if you have a newborn baby, because by the time the sun is up and you can even see him, it's very hot. It may harm the baby. But in those days, when the sun is just rising over the fields, the red, deep red color of the sun or the setting sun was very easy for the eye. And it is just a darshan. The first time the child is coming out, the rays of the sun blesses. And so there are mantras saying that, oh sun, bless my child, bless the child, give him the nutrition, or the moon, or both. And they would say the moon, guide him in his mind, and so on. So there are mantras for that are chanted. Or they would take the baby, the very first outing of a baby is taken to a temple, and so on. So that is an important thing. Okay, it's not suddenly decided, oh, the weather's out today, let's take the baby out. Maybe that's good too, but then do you remember the day you took the baby out for the first time? Then that is, you did a samskara, which is noted down in the ancient traditions as a very, very important thing. When you first introduce the baby to the elements outside. Then comes the next one, the Anna Prashana. So in the 10th or 11th month, I think the baby is fed solid food for the first time, maybe the first year. When that is done, when you wean her slowly away from mother's milk and then start feeding her solid food, it's a very important time in the baby's life. And that moment is also marked. It's a samskara that is done very mindfully, Anna Prashana. Many of you from India are probably familiar with this. You might know much more than I do. But then the differences, if there are, it is because of certain traditions. And many of these traditions have got watered down, have got changed and so on because of social reasons and so on. Remember, we were under foreign attack for so many years and so many things changed because of all that. And then comes Chudakarana. Chudakarana is shaving of the head. The rite of tonsure. Almost every baby in India, even to this day, when they're born, at some time they will choose a good day and they will shave the baby, the first haircut for the baby, if you will. They're taken to Tirupati or Tirutani or Payani and so on. And that is done. It's a very important, again, a very sacred, if you will, task, a very mindful task in the baby's life that parents do. I was fortunate, my cousin and I, when we went to Payani, our family guru was there at that time, and this was in 1961 or 62, I think, and his name is Pittukulli Murugadas. Many of you know him as a singer, bhajan singer, and he insisted that he would carry both of us, and he's a great saint, honestly. He lived up to 90 plus years and passed away very recently. And he carried us both all the way up to Payani, and we sat on his lap as my head was shaved. And so that is Chudakarana. So do I remember it? I know I cried, I bawled my head out. And so I know that part because they applied chandan, and it was not a very friendly thing. They just tied me up literally and did, I don't know why, but nevertheless. But that is an important rite. Both in girls and boys, they do this. Then comes the next one. That's the ninth. Yes, the ninth one is Karna Veda. Karna Veda is piercing of the ears. My ears were pierced when I was 10 years, I think 10 or 11 or maybe 14. When I was having my thread ceremony done, that time they pierced my ears. And I kept it pierced for a short period, and then it went off, and I recently pierced my ears again a couple of years ago. But Karna Veda is piercing of the ears for both male and female children are done. That's again a very important day that is done. It is believed that there are certain nerve endings in the ear. When it is pierced, it increases the ability for the child to learn language, speaking ability, comprehension ability. All of that improves tremendously for the child. And so a time is chosen. Again, these are done by people who are mindful of what is happening in the cosmos. So they will choose the right time and the day for these things to happen. Then comes the 10th. So you see, all these are mindful. How mindful was life at that point, right? And then comes Vidya Arambha. Vidya Arambha or Akshara Abhyasa, there are different names for this, is the learning begins at home. At some point, the child has to begin to speak. And so the eldest in the family would hold the hand of the baby and write the first letter as a blessing. So the very first time, the first letter, usually in Sanatana Dharma, Om is written. And many of you are already aware of this, being Sai Baba's devotees, that Baba would write, and you would enjoy doing this, he would write Om on a simple black slate for little children. And Maya's sister was blessed when she was, I don't know, maybe a baby, and she had to do a Akshara Abhyasa. Swami got the slate and wrote Om for her. Is it a coincidence that later she ended up getting a gold medal in Baba's university? I don't know. But it's all a blessing. The first education, Vidya Arambha, is done consciously, mindfully, by the eldest in your family, by your guru, by the priest, whoever, right? So they do that. It could be the father, it could be the mother, right? So if you read Hanuman's story, you'll see that Hanuman's mother, Anjani, was his first guru. His father was the first guru, and then they prepared him to go to the sun god and so on. So everybody has, the parents become the very first guru. That's why this is where the concept of Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava comes in. Because they are your first gurus, and therefore they are much more than any other gods on this earth. They are the ones who even taught you to speak. Without them, it would be impossible, right? So Vidya Arambha. So it's again a very mindful samskara. Then comes Upanayana. Now Upanayana has grossly changed over the centuries. What we do today was never the practice, or perhaps one part of the practice. When I say Upanayana, most of you will think, oh, it is a thread ceremony that people put, or the boys put, and unfortunately we say the Brahmin boys put it. But it was not the case. Do you know that even women used to wear sacred thread? It was a practice in ancient Vedic times. So if you really want to go to traditions, then women and men both wore sacred thread. That is why in Devi Upasana you put a sacred thread on her. Anyway, the point here is, so what does Upanayana mean? Does Upanayana mean wearing the sacred thread? What is the significance of sacred thread? Upanayana, Upa means near. Like Upanishad, sit near. Near what? Near the Guru's feet. Upanishad, you sit at the Guru's feet. That is what the meaning of Upanishad is. So Upanayana has to be something like that, right? Ayana. Ayana is go towards the path. Like Uttarayana is the path of the sun, right? Ramayana, the path of Rama. So Upanayana, Ayana, the Upa is going near. Going near what? Going near the Guru. Going to the school. Being accepted by the Guru. That is that phase. Upanayana is where the Guru formally accepts a student. Says, yes, this child, I will teach this child. Right? That is the Upanayana stage actually. And then in order to initiate this child into the highest learning, there was no restriction on any caste for the sacred thread ceremony. There was no restriction. Unfortunately, it was exploited and it became restricted to only a small sect of people. So that practices, the old practices, there was no restriction. So don't think that in Vedic times there were already, somehow there was discrimination and all of that. It was not there. Every child who was accepted by a guru would wear this sacred thread, because he would say, now I'm going to initiate you into the highest wisdom. And after that, you go back, you become a trader, if you will, with that wisdom. You go and become a priest, if you will, with that wisdom. You go and become a warrior, if you will. Whatever you want, you do with that wisdom. But my job is to give you that wisdom. And if you're worthy, I will accept you. So the guru will accept. And that state of acceptance and being initiated into the highest Gayatri mantra happens. And so the sacred thread ceremony is an incidental to the Upanayana, to the larger idea of the guru accepting the student. Very interesting, right? Anyway, thought it might be an aha moment for many of you who may not have been aware of this. Then comes Veda Arambha. Once the child goes into the school, not directly, they don't start immediately. There is a phase where the child grows. Depending on the age of the child, they grow, they bond with the guru and the guru patni. They become parents to the child. And then when the child is ready, the guru will know the child is ready now. He's ready to learn. So it was customized, tailored, unlike what we see today. It wasn't like, oh, you're this age, push you into this class, push you into that class, and we become zombies, right? Anyway, but it wasn't like that. Every child was studied individually based on the horoscope, based on the strength of the stars. The guru will decide, okay, now it's time for you to begin, you wait, and so on. So the Vidyarambha was a mindful time when the child was ready to begin Vedic studies, not Vidyarambha, sorry, Vedarambha, beginning of Vedic studies, because that would now go on for a decade almost. So that will go on. So from 6 or 8 years till he's 18, 20, 21 years, that will go on. So in that ashram, what happens? He will enter into teenage. His hormones change. He gets into teenager. He matures, body matures. So there is another mindful state where it is called Keshanta. The first time he shaves his hair off or cuts his hair off, whatever it is. And then there the guru educates him in matters of sex and so on. And then they take a vow of celibacy at that time. Brahmacharya is not celibacy. Brahmacharya is where your acharana is completely focused in Brahman. Because it's completely focused in Brahman, you don't have time for anything else. It has become a synonym or a metaphor for celibacy, but it doesn't mean celibacy. So here in Keshanta time, the student says, I'm going to now focus only on studies and nothing else. So these are practices, and so at this time they would be taught the changes that they will undergo in the body and so on and so forth. Anyway, Keshanta is one. There was a separate ritual, Ritu something for girls at the same time. Okay, then comes the Samavartana. So after that comes 10 years or so, whatever, during this period, they continue learning. End of education, there's no 10 years with this guru. The guru decides, now you are ready to go out into the world. You have learned everything that I have to give you. There's nothing more I can teach you. Go out into the world. This is the stories you read every time. So there was no fixed time for beginning and no fixed time for ending. It depended on the student's ability to learn, the student's ability to assimilate and so on. And when the student was ready, the guru will release them and say, now you go. Now let my teaching go through you and express itself. Okay, when he was confident that this student will not misuse or misunderstand or fall away, and the student has gained that kind of strength, then he would say, all right, now go. So that was an understanding there, Samavartana. That is that the time has come to end education with the guru. So that is another phase. Then that doesn't mean because your education is over, doesn't mean you are going to get wedding. So don't think it's an immediate thing. So it could be many years, it could be many months, I don't know. But the next important phase in that life is wedding, vivaha. Because now the student, having learned, he's stepping out into the world, he's ready to enter the stage of grihastha, householder, and use that knowledge to further his life and fulfill his destiny, whatever that destiny is. So vivaha or wedding is an important samskara in that life. And then comes, of course, this is the way it sounds, okay, after wedding, what happens? Funeral rites. And that's what happens to people who get married, right? It sounds like that, but it's not so. I put this because the 16th one, there are so many variations to that. In the householder, once you enter that ashrama, there are so many other rites that takes off from that. But then the final one becomes the more important 16th rite. So this is not a particular rite written on the book as such, but this is the final. At the end of life, there is a rite which others perform for you, just like they performed before you were born. During your birth, somebody will perform when you die. So these are the 16 phases of life, and in middle there are many others. Okay, there are many offshoots, but broadly these are the 16 phases. So 16 again becomes an important number. So 16 has always been a very important number here. Let me quickly go through one more. I just wanted to touch this upon today. We do Shoda Upachara Puja. Shodasha Upachara Puja. Shodasha we know now. Dasha is 6. Dasha is 10. Shodasha is 16. Shodasha Upachara. Upachara means there are 16 kinds of steps in this puja. It's considered a complete puja, a worship, when you do 16 steps. What are those 16 steps? So the first step begins with dhyanam. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam. You're meditating on Ganesha. Even before invoking, first you meditate, then you call upon. Right? So dhyanam is your first step. This is another thing. That's Shodasha Samskaras is one. I'm explaining another way to look at 16 and understand the importance of 16. So dhyanam is the first step. Then comes avahanam. So in the puja, when you do a complete puja or when you have a priest do a complete puja, watch these distinct phases in the puja. So first there is meditation, dhyana of every deity, and there are many deities like this. When we do Navagraha pujas during full new moon nights, and I would take 7-8 hours, because each graha you invite, you do this whole 16 for each graha. So it takes a very long time. Avahanam, invocation. All these are symbolic. They are rituals. But when you understand, you are entering into a state of contemplation and bhakti and deep meditation. You're tuning into that energy. And all these acts help you to keep your conscious brain occupied. The frontal lobe of the brain has to be occupied with something. So these acts, all these acts that we're going to do now in the 16 will keep that brain occupied. Whereas the chitta then begins to absorb that energy. You have to keep the conscious mind occupied. Otherwise, it's going to ask 101 questions and block this energy. Right? So the conscious mind is occupied doing the rituals, lighting lamps, deepam, this, that, and the subconscious mind is slowly absorbing. So a ritual has a very powerful impact on the psyche, on the spiritual path. But you have to understand what it is. You can't do it blindly. And for some reason, I can't tune into paying somebody to do a ritual. It doesn't affect you. We believe it is, that is different. But one has to learn this, because you have to tune into this deity for your blessing. Anyway, the only person who can do it for you is somebody who is very selfless, who will fast and who will become one with you in spirit and do it for you. So that is how it is done if somebody else is doing it for you. But otherwise, if somebody is doing it for money and all, it really doesn't have so much impact. Anyway, that's besides the point. So what is the second one? Invocation. You invoke the deity. There are mantras. There is bhava there. You invoke the deity into your presence. So now that the deity has come into your consciousness, you offer the seat to the deity. You allow this deity's energy to settle down. Because offering a seat means, when a guest comes home, if the guest sits down in the sofa, you know that guest does not come to ask you, hey, do you have some salt in your house from your neighbor? And he knocked the door and just say, hey, do you have a cup of milk? I run out of milk. So they're standing at the doorway. You give them a cup of milk and they say, okay, thank you so much. And they go away, right? But when that neighbor comes and settles down in your sofa, then he has come or she has come, now they're not going anywhere. So the idea of settling down, offering a seat in our unconscious, subconscious mind is they've come, they've established themselves. So there is this idea of offering a seat to the deity. So don't understand these things as some ridiculous ideas of what are you offering seat to God who's omnipresent. That's true, but still the act, the thought means that you are offering a seat in your consciousness, a place in your heart for this deity to settle and create that neural path in your brain, in your system. Now, padyam, then you wash the feet. In other words, there is a reverence and humility that is expressed at this point. There is padyam that is done, washing the feet of this deity. Now, what is happening here? Like I said, the conscious mind is caught up with offering flower, offering the water at the feet of the deity. Think, okay, I'm washing the feet of the deity, but the subconscious mind is tuning into the energy. If it's Ganesha, then you're tuning into the energy of Ganesha. someday we'll do a ritual full in detail like this and study. If you're interested, let me know, because then it's very interesting to see what is this, what is the science behind this, the psychosomatic, what was that the rishis wanted us to create. And for the greatest number of years, I resisted it because I saw my parents doing it. And for just like a teenager, I decided to resist it, and I kept resisting it for a long time. But when I understood, when I started living with my parents in the ashram, and I actually saw my father doing it again and again, and I saw Swami encouraging him, Baba encouraging him to do it, rather than saying, what is all that, just go into Advaita. Then I began to think, you know what, wait a minute, there has to be some meaning in this. And that's when doors began to open, because I had closed my door. I was not seeing the light. When I opened, then I saw how much power is there in that practice as well. It is again a method. Everybody doesn't have to do it. Everybody cannot tune into this. And it's perfectly okay. Just like yoga or meditation. They're all paths. But this is a very beautiful path. So then you wash the hands of this deity. Washing hands, again, cleansing. So when you're washing something else, you're actually internally cleansing what it means to you. Then comes offering of water to drink. So there is peace, there is calmness. You're making shanti and peace with that deity. There's no fear now. You wash the hands, you wash the feet, you're offering, you're communicating. Pujas are never done out of fear. We have created, unfortunately, so many ridiculous things around this Shodapachara that we create fear. Oh, don't offer this flower, don't do this, don't sit this way, don't do that way. And so people are very terrified to do these things. But it defeats the whole purpose. Anyway, achamanam, then you offer water to drink. Then you bathe the deity. Cleansing, complete cleansing happens. That in other words, when you bathe the deity, you are, just like when you bathe yourself, you get a chance to see your whole body, right? Oh gosh, there is a boil here, or what's happening in the mirror. You get to see, as when you shower, when you soap yourself, when you cleanse yourself, it's like you make a complete tour of your body, if you will. You get a very clear idea of how big or how small your stomach is, and so on and so forth, right? When you bathe the deity, you are actually becoming very clear of the form and the name of that deity. It's very crystal clear. That's why the snanam is an important part. So you bathe the deity, because you remove all the ornaments and the clothes, and all you see is that beautiful figure of the Devi or Shiva. And then you say, oh my God, this is Devi, this is the Shiva. And you offer water, cleansing. So an internal cleansing happens as you cleanse the deity. More clarity of the name and the form gets imprinted in your mind. Then comes vastra bharanam. Once this thing's over, then you begin to decorate the deity. You rich ornaments, richness, because when you learn to give abundance, abundance comes back to you. So there is vastra. Vastra means clothes. Abharana is jewels. So jewels and clothes, you make it beautiful. If you look at this altar tonight, Maya has done such a spectacular job. And so there it is. There is so much beauty when you look at it. The mind suddenly explodes in wow. There is so much color, right? There are lamps burning. There are beautiful flowers, all colors. So the senses are completely engulfed at that moment with Shiva and Shakti. Okay, let's come back to the slides. So Vastrabharanam comes there, and then comes Yagnopavitam. Yagnopavitam, like I said, is the sacred thread. The idea of initiating into the highest knowledge. The guru accepting somebody was the highest honor to that child, right? Giving, it's like giving the highest honor to that child. That's just like today children say, I'm accepted in this university, yay, and they get that letter and they're beaming with joy, right? What is that? That's an honor for the child to be accepted by a university. Same thing. So Yagnopavitam is symbolic of granting greatest honor. You have come to my home, please, you are the chief guest of this home, so we are offering the highest honor. Yagnopavitam, you offer a sacred thread to that deity. Whether it is any female deity, male deity, usually they do that traditionally, but now I don't know, it depends again from culture to culture. Then comes Gandham, then you anoint the deity with scented oils. Now you're beginning to fill your senses Like I said just now, when we saw the altar, the eyes see colors, the nose is smelling, there is all of the senses is now completely becoming merged into the divine. Gandham. Then comes Archanam, offering of flowers. Flowers are your emotions, your thoughts. You just offer, take everything that I have, and let it. They're all symbolized by flowers, petals. That's why all that petals. We're going to learn about what all the meaning of these petals. There are 16 here, then there is 8 more petals. So each of these petals means something. Flowers mean the same thing. So we offer flowers to the deity, and then you offer incense to the deity. Then you offer deepam, light. You offer light. You bring light into your life. So all of these are mindful, beautiful states, lifting your consciousness higher and higher, higher and higher, with more clarity. And the deity that you invoked initially in dhyana slowly becomes more and more pratyaksha. With the lighting of the lamp, now there is light, lighting the deity around. So lighting of the lamp. Then you offer food to the deity, because by now the deity has come to life, literally, and food is important for you and me. So whatever is important for you and me, we offer it, right? It's not like God needs it. So you can offer even a simple fruit. Whatever fruit is with you, you can offer that as a symbol, right? So you offer food. Then you offer betel nut and betel leaves. This is again based on tradition here, because when we eat rich food, betel leaf along with betel nut helps in digestion. Okay, so it is a mark of saying you have eaten food. Now you also make sure it's digested. It's like you're paying your utmost respect to the deity. So that, and finally you do the arati, nirajanam as it is called, offering of the arati. So the light, you take the camphor and you light and look at every part of the deity completely. And you say, I want to be like the camphor, completely offer myself to you with no trace left behind at the end. So the 16 steps of a puja becomes an important sadhana, and it is in 16, number 16. So this is the 16 steps. That is why 16, I didn't mean to go into so much detail, but it just happened. So the idea is 16 becomes an important number. 16 is an important number. Anything to do with 16 days of sadhana, 16 days, 16 weeks, all of this. There is a sola somvar vratan. So sola, the number 16 Mondays, people keep some vratas. Santoshi Mata Vrata is there, Durga Vrata is there, Rahu Vrata, all these 16. So pay attention when you hear the number 16. It's an important number. And if your birthday is on the 16th, then good for you. 16 is a very important number in our psyche because it is connected to the cosmos, connected to our ancestors, the ones of the ancient civilizations, who tuned into this universal scheme of things and shared these lessons for posterity. If it's lasted thousands of years, it'll last a few more thousand years, there's no doubt about it. So today, we just explored the importance of 16. I have all the slides ready. We will dive right into each of these petals from the next class. Let us end this with a short bhajan. I know we are run out of time. Bear with me. I'll sing it, keep it short. But this is a beautiful bhajan. Om Shri Matre Namaha. 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 श्री मात्रे नमः। सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि, सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि, सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि। मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी, मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी। सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि, सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि। चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी, चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी। राज साई महेश्वरी, राज राजेश्वरी, साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी। ओम शक्ति ओम, 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 ओम शक्ति ओम। सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि, मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी, मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी। सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरि। चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी, चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी। साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी, साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी। ओम शक्ति ओम, 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 ओम शक्ति ओम। ओम श्री मात्रे नमः, ओम श्री मात्रे नमः, ओम श्री मात्रे नमः, ओम श्री मात्रे नमः, ओम श्री मात्रे नमः। समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु, समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु, समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु। Om. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti